Hi, my name is Matthew Flesher. This is ECE 5831 Pattern Recognition and Neural Networks, Fall 2019. This presentation is about an article taken from the IEEE Transactions on Evolutionary Computation Journal. It's from August 2016. The article is titled A Survey on Evolutionary Computation Approaches to Feature Selection. Feature selection is basically an attempt to handpick the features that help our models the most and discard the ones that don't, so that we can improve performance and reduce complexity. This is not to be confused with feature construction, also called feature extraction, which also reduces the number of features, but its mission is to create new features from the original set of features. Feature selection is important because modern big data problems, their search spaces can be very large. Something like gene analysis can have millions of features, making a complete search over the search space computationally expensive. This paper did a pretty comprehensive survey of recent state-of-the-art works in evolutionary computation. They discussed some of the strengths and weaknesses of different approaches and also some of the current issues and challenges. So before I talk about feature selection in general, first we have to figure out what is evolutionary computation. Probably the most well-known algorithm that falls under this category is the genetic algorithm. Features are represented by genes, which make up an individual, also called a chromosome. An individual is basically a set of features, in this case represented as a binary string. There's a fitness function that selects the fittest individuals to move on to the next generation. After that, there's a crossover step that swaps genes with another individual. And some form of mutation is applied, just random flipping of bits, to produce the next offspring in the population. And then those offspring will go through the fitness function as well. The process is repeated until some sort of stopping condition is met. So the whole idea that the feature is that the feature subset that are the most fit, all or part of them will survive until the next generation. So it's a survival of the fittest. This diagram is taken from the article and shows the general process for feature selection. First is gathering a subset of features. And then the most important part of this process is the subset evaluation portion that measures the goodness and the quality of the selected features. This would be the fitness function from the GA example in the last slide. There are basically two main approaches to feature selection. Some people in the field consider there to be three approaches, with the third being an embedded approach that integrates feature selection and the classifier into a single process. However, this paper mainly focused on just the two main here, while briefly mentioning the other. So the first one is the wrapper approach. It includes a classification algorithm such as like KNN, SVM, etc., in the subset evaluation step. And the classifier is basically a black box that evaluates the goodness of the selected features. The second approach is the filter approach, and it applies statistical analysis to each feature, and then the features are ranked by their score, and the lower ranking features are removed from the data set. The main objectives of feature selection are to maximize the classification accuracy while minimizing the number of features used. Minimizing features improves performance and reduces complexity. And these two things are not always a trade-off. There are times when less features will actually improve the classification accuracy, and vice versa. Two of the main problems had when selecting features are the interaction between features as well as the redundancy of them. There are some features that alone don't seem to help the model much. They might even be completely removed in the filter approach that ranks features, but when they are paired with other features, they help out immensely. On the flip side of that, there are some features that do help our model by themselves, but when paired or used with other features, they become redundant. There are other search algorithms used for feature selection, for example, greedy search, heuristic search, random search. The problem with many of them is they get stuck in a local optima. So the search finds what it thinks is the optimal solution, when it's met the stopping criteria, but it only searched a portion of the search space. They're not good at finding the optimal solution for the entire search space. However, ECs are pretty good at that. The chart below is taken from the article, and it shows the amount of papers found on ECs on Google Scholar for the last 10 years or so. Research into ECs started in about 1990, but it drew a lot of attention in the mid 2000s, as the chart shows, pretty much coinciding with the start of big data. EC itself is used as a search technique. However, it is not a traditional one like, say, greedy search. And so, comparing to traditional search techniques, besides doing a better job at global search, EC for feature selection has some other advantages. It doesn't need domain knowledge. In the case of GA, it only knows ones and zeros and the fitness function. It doesn't need to know what ones and zeros represent. And it doesn't make any assumptions about the search space. Because it's adding offspring to the population, it also produces multiple solutions. Some of the disadvantages of EC is that it takes a large number of evaluations, so it's computationally expensive. And there's a stability issue. You can run the same EC algorithm on the same data in two different places, basically, and they might not produce the same results. They could be different. In fact, there's a good chance they will be. As mentioned before, the wrapper approaches, we use a classification algorithm in the subset evaluation portion of feature selection of the process. Some of the popular ones are SVMs, neural networks, and so on. And again, the filter approach to feature selection often uses statistical measures such as theory-based measures, correlation, distance measures. The paper surveyed various EC techniques like genetic algorithms, genetic programming, particle swarm optimization, and ant colony optimization. They briefly mentioned some others, but mainly focused on these four. So the genetic algorithm is likely the first evolutionary computation technique. It's been around since 1990. Most of the work done on GAs is with the wrapper approach. GAs do not perform well if there's a lot of instances. They're good at handling a lot of features, but if the instances reach more than like 1,000, it struggles. So it's not really that good for big data problems. PSOs, like other GAs, conduct feature selection iteratively. They develop a population of candidate solutions referred to as particles. The particles then, using some mathematical formula, navigate around the search space trying to get closer to the best solutions. They're used for both continuous and binary problems. Like GAs, they use a bit string to represent the features, and they also do not scale well with tens of thousands of features. They're best for domains that don't have a whole lot of interactive features either. They mostly a structured set of data, at least data interactions. Genetic programming is somewhat similar to GAs. GAs are search algorithms that mimic natural evolution, where the individuals are raw data. In GPs, on the other hand, the individual is a computer program. GPs are not as popular as GAs or PSOs, and they're generally used more often for feature construction than selection. They can be used as search and a classification algorithm. And like GAs, they're suitable for a small number of instances. Ant colony optimization is a method that uses probabilities to find good paths through a graph, much like ants on a path. And most of the research papers for ACOs are based off wrapper approaches. However, the proportion of papers based on filter approaches is much higher than GAs, GPs, and PSOs. The graph representation is more flexible than other techniques, but encoding features as nodes comes at cost computationally. So ACOs do not scale well and are relatively focuses on small scale problems. So the paper goes into detail on some of the measures and filter approaches, and they break them down into 6 categories: information theory-based measures, correlation measures, distance measures, consistency measures, use fuzzy set theory, and rough set theory. The information theory-based measures are used more than the others, and there's 4 different ways they do that. One is they rank features. They're used in the local search of a memetic algorithm, which is kind of an extension of a genetic algorithm. They're incorporated into the updating mechanism, or they can be used for the fitness function. Correlation measures are used to predict values based off of other values, basically their correlation. Distance measures determine the separation between features, and consistency determines whether 2 instances with the same features will have the same class label. And fuzzy set theory is used to measure uncertainty to evaluate the quality of the features. Rough set theory measures the consistency of a data set to approximate a target set to be used in feature selection. The paper also broke down the major application categories in which EC techniques are used. Image and signal processing, such as image analysis, face recognition, human action, handwritten digit recognition, um, biological and biomedical tasks like gene analysis, business and financial problems such as credit card issuing and bank systems. So if you don't get approved for a credit card, you can blame evolutionary computation. Network web service, including email spam detection and security. And of course, there's many others. Some of the issues with evolutionary computation for feature selection presented here. The most pressing issue is scalability. In the big data world, many problems, the features can reach tens of thousands or even millions of features. And most EC methods are computationally expensive given that they do an evaluation after each iteration. The filter is more efficient than the wrapper since it's just doing statistical evaluation. And EC lends itself naturally to parallel computing. So there are ways to reduce costs and increase evaluation speed. Search in these large solution spaces is an NP hard problem. And with ECs, there are numerous solutions found in a search space, so stability can be an issue. Evaluation measures influence the performance of the model, so you just got to be careful. Even small changes can have a major effect on the fitness value. Good representation can reduce the search space. Anytime groups of features can be eliminated without sacrificing classification performance, it's definitely helpful. Some more issues. Multi-objective optimization is an area that involves more than one objective function, and it's often used for continuous problems. However, feature selection is a discrete problem. And another challenge is to use feature construction along with feature selection to improve classification performance and reduce the number of features. And one of the biggest issues is big data is the number of instances. Small number of instances make it hard to separate data sets into training and test data. However, a large number of instances do not perform well with EC. They're quite expensive. So in conclusion, the paper gave an overview of how EC techniques handle feature selection, as well as they gave some of the key factors and issues associated with that. ECs mostly perform well on data sets with a small number of instances, even though they do well with thousands of features. Um, they not so much with large number of data in those features, or instances of those features. Scalability is a major issue for ECs as big data continues to get bigger. So any way to make the subset evaluation step cheaper is obviously better. And this is the paper presented. That would be the end of it. Thank you.